All right. I'm going to call this meeting to order, 6 o'clock. Kim.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we have with us Tina Weaver, the Executive Director from the North Kansas City YMCA. She will present the NKC Healthy Citizens Initiative proposal. Through this proposed program, the North Kansas City residents would be offered a city-subsidized membership rates to the North Kansas City YMCA. Tonight we have with us, like I said, Tina Weaver. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Go for it.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
We got it now? We got it now. Thanks so much for having me. Just want to start off, I know how valuable your time is, and just working with you all in the community, I am grateful for the opportunities that we have to impact and really serve a greater North Kansas City. And that's what today is all about. For my role, I've been in North Kansas City serving as the executive director for nearly 3 years at the YMCA. It's kind of wild to think that this August I'll be here 3 years side by side with each of you, seeing how we can improve the health and well-being of our citizens. That being said, why don't we take a little bit of a journey when prior to these past 3 years, even going back 6 years of understanding where the North Kansas City Community Center at that time was. If we could rewind the clock and understand that we were in a really strong financial hold at that point in time, losing anywhere to the tune of around $1.2 to $1.3 million a year, the community center really wasn't on a trajectory of success. So what we were able to do was come in work in cadence with you all, the city, and numerous other entities, like the hospital, for instance. We were able to come into a partnership agreement where the YMCA began management. Again, this is nearly 6 years ago. And what we've been able to see is a vast turn in what that operational budget looked like. Again, 6 years ago, losing about 1.2, 1.3, that was a cost to the city. That was something that we had to incur. And I'm happy to say over the past 3 years, we've seen a huge change in what that looks like. Even through the pandemic, having a very small net positive to a pandemic year is something we don't go home and sneeze about. We're very proud of. But prior to the pandemic, we saw a trajectoral growth of about $100,000 to that. So we went from a negative 1.2 to a positive net of about $100,000. That's the impact we were able to make for this community. Let's talk about what impact we are actually doing for that. In front of you, you hopefully have some information around the North Kansas City Healthy Citizen Package. The reason why we built this is understanding the penetration of the current usage of North Kansas City residents to the YMCA. And if I was to really build out a good plan for you all, you would see that about 300 memberships are of North Kansas City residents. So let me give you a total perspective on that. We currently have about 2,900 membership units. So a unit is either an individual or a family, but 2,900 membership units serving well over 8,000 individuals and families. Prior to the pandemic, we were about 3,800 membership units. So the pandemic did hit us pretty hard, right? But now we're about 2,900 units. We've netted over 300 units for this year, so we're seeing that continued bounce back, that rebound of what the pandemic did create for our the health of our center. And what we continue to see is our opportunities of how we can serve the citizens of North Kansas City. Again, prior to the pandemic, just over 300 membership units. That's about 10%. That is that is about 1%. That is a very small penetration rate of the total membership units. And with that, we'd like to see what's the feasibility of increasing our membership units for the North Kansas City residents. We see a constant demand on that, the challenges of pricing, and that's been something that's been a point of contention. So what we've built in here into a partnership with the city and our continued relevance of how we can serve and really be a vibrant resource for our community here in North Kansas City is a partnership agreement that would say the citizen the city and the YMCA would go into a three-part contribution to bringing the membership rates down to, as we can read here, a recommended $40 for an individual and $75 for a family. Bringing those price points to that would essentially give us, on the individual membership, roughly about a $19.50 reduction in the cost of the membership. For the family membership, which could be two people or more with kids in the household and such, that would give us about a $17 reduction in that. We found that those rates have been something that's been much more palatable, and we're looking at this as a joint contribution of how we can have a stronger impact on the residents and citizens of North Kansas City. So I can pause at this time and welcome any questions that anyone may have.
Councilmember Clevenger.
First of all, thanks for bringing this forward, Tina. This is something that some residents have been calling for because they want to utilize the service, and it's, the price funding is the prices are, like you said, a part of contention. And so that's why I wanted us to look at this and working with Mayor DeLong and you on this. So a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. When you're showing these numbers on the $40, where the city would pay $16.50 on a single membership, and the YMCA would put in $250 then on that. First of all, can you kind of explain that ratio about where you got the $250 for the YMCA? And then as far as council, we've got other things if we do decide to go forward, like how we would fund it and any kind of usage requirements, or looking at it down the road as far as usage. But can you go into that $250 like there or the?
So what we have built out with numerous organizations is this partnership contribution plan, and we like to call it a healthy living partnership. And what we have are certain levels where we contribute, and we can contribute more contingent upon what the, let's say, the business or the organization is contributed. So we built this off of an existing plan that we have, and to remain consistent and within line with that, with other healthy living partnerships, we utilize that $2.50 rate contribution there.
Is that flexible, or is that something that, is that just a written in stone number? I was just curious.
I would say stone can often be washed away, but over time. So I would say it's not, maybe not stone, but maybe granite. I don't know. We've got some.
No, thank you. No, I think you're certainly right. There's definitely been a point of contention over time with people concerned that, the rates at the Y are too expensive for some in the community, and they recognize it is the city-owned facility. So I appreciate you putting this together. I had one question I should have asked you before, and I totally forgot until now. Would they still be able to maintain legacy rates if residents already had legacy rates? This wouldn't
No.
do anything to impact
Yeah,
those?
we wouldn't impact that, and I've got a breakdown of our unit types, of the 300 unit types, and we would keep intact those legacy rates. Those legacy rates are rates that were pre the YMCA management, so we've adopted those, and if someone remains consistent with that, they keep that legacy rate with a very nominal incremental increase, maybe every other year or something like that. So yes, those would remain intact.
Perfect. I'll probably have a couple more down the road, but Councilmember Roberts.
Yeah, so I have a handful of things here. We'll see what we can knock out real quick. So you use the word partnership and joint contribution quite a bit. Councilmember Clevenger kind of touched upon it, but the 250 is a little bit shocking for me to see, especially in this instance. I'm sure everyone's unique. This one, this partnership is between essentially your landlord, which is kind of a strange situation, and a city in and of itself trying to create this healthy living program. I just see your contribution being $250. I know there's all these additional savings and perks, but I kind of feel like those are everyday savings and perks that I get flyers in the mail for that you're offering Joe Schmo coming from Gladstone. So those are fine and dandy, but not everybody's going to use those. And then outside of the low contribution, which I'd like to see maybe a 40-60 split or 35, something like that, a higher contribution split. But because this is just kind of silly, I think $10 and we're spending almost $50 on the bottom tier price. It's just kind of astronomical. And then just from a personal perspective, I think you're going to see higher rates if we also build in like a no frills membership. A lot of these perks are great, but most people I don't think will utilize them. They see like, I can go to the YMCA over all these locations around the country or in the city. That's great, but I could also go to Planet Fitness for $10, or I can go down the street to either of these other places. It'd be cheaper for us, based on these plans, to purchase another membership at another gym here than what we're offering.
Yeah.
So I guess I have a lot going on there. So if you can kind of answer any of that and how that kind of works.
Yeah, happy to unpack that. So what I'd like to consider is that the YMCA is certainly not a Planet Fitness. We are far more than what a Planet Fitness has to offer. When I say partnership, you're going to see that that's represented of everyone that walks through the doors. When you hear the words, we are welcoming for all, we are a commitment to that. So when you think of the YMCA, we are a community, and we are really driving towards a more equitable community. So when we think about these rates and we think about equity, we're thinking about what's the feasibility of usage. If somebody just wants to go and work out as an individual and hit the weights and get on a treadmill, Planet Fitness may be their game, right? But that doesn't speak to the volume of the programs we have to offer at the YMCA that are all baked in part of the YMCA membership and services that we continue to drive to create more for our community. So it is certainly something that I've been working for. I'm a YMCA veteran for 12 years, so I believe in our mission and I believe in our services. And then as far as the split number was the other part of your question, I believe. As I said before, this was a replication of what we do with a lot of other, not a lot of, all of our other healthy living partners. And inside of that, it is valued with all these perks that you felt like maybe people wouldn't go into, individuals wouldn't be interested in. It's our responsibility to really help them along their journey and utilize these savings to another level. While you get those things in the mail, it is key that we continue to just elevate and speak to the individual and not generalize the thoughts that individuals may not want these services.
Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Tina, thanks for setting all this up. First question I had is, I've never fully understood the business relationship that the YMCA has with the city. So when you say we went from a $1.2 million loss to a $100,000 gain, that's remarkable, great job. What happens to that $100,000 at the end of the year? Where does that go?
It's a 50-50 split.
Okay, so if we make $100K, 50 comes back to the city, and that goes into our general fund, is that?
It goes back into the enterprise funds. The community center is its own fund. That way, for separation of financial purposes. I will note there's also, though, a management fee. So the city
Right.
does pay a management fee, but Tina is correct. So if they have a positive value at the end of the year, we do split on that.
Okay, so that's after the management fee, right? The
They're
100,000.
separate, yeah.
Okay, so if we net 100,000 at the end of the year, so really, the contribution from the YMCA, we're by virtue of how that sets up, we would be contributing half of that as well. Is that correct? By the way nature of our membership. So if that is going to be $2.50, and say we weren't making that, or you weren't making that contribution, it would filter out to the end where that was profit that
Okay,
goes
I
back
hear-
in. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, I hear what you're saying. So I think the point on that 250, let me see if I can answer that for you, okay?
Sure, and that's fine. And this is a pretty unique relationship, I'd
Sure.
imagine. Like, very often, the YMCA just owns the facility that they're
Yeah.
working through.
Yeah, partner-wise are something that's a bit new to the YMCA genre, but
Sure.
the ownership of the land, the property, and management is all usually housed under one, so this is a
Right.
hybrid opportunity.
Yeah, I was a YMCA brat growing up. I spent pretty much all my time in and out of Y's,
Sure.
just running amok. So it's a unique relationship. That's why, like, kind of this off-the-rack plan might not be the greatest fit for what we have here, especially with us being the beneficiaries of 50% of the net profit, and then the way that all shakes out. Second question was the legacy rates you mentioned. I was a member of the community center before the YMCA took over, and then it got almost like triple, I think, is what we were looking at as a family. What are the legacy rates that you have there?
So I have the legacy adult rate is at 34, the legacy household, which would be, let's say, a family, is at 61, and then the legacy senior is at 27.
Okay, could we look at maybe targeting those as our benchmarks? Because that's what we had for residents before the Y took over.
So you can look at it, if you look on the sheet that's in front of you.
Yep.
Yep. So you can see if we were targeting those rates.
Be roughly the second tier.
Yeah, level 2, you can see that there.
Okay. If there's a way, and then I guess my third thought is if we're putting this into an enterprise fund and say we'll use that $100,000 benchmark, if 50,000 was going to come back to the city in an enterprise fund, perhaps we could use that as, say, a fitness dividend to people who are members. That 50,000 gets split back across people involved, and that would be somewhere between tier 1 and 2. And if that's the number we're using, that almost dead on hits the legacy rates. We just back into it in a different way. So the more profitable the center is, say the more residents that sign up, the more profitable the center gets. If we dividend it back, there's like a shared incentive to bring more people in so that the dividend gets bigger. I don't know how that looks on a marketing side, because it's hard to say, like, well, we'll give you some money back down the road. Like, I know REI does that kind of thing, but just a thought, like a different way to skin the cat.
Yeah. Definitely a different way, but coming at the same approach, I guess.
Sure,
Yep.
yep.
Another question, and we've already talked about this. You have the ability to, I guess, audit usage and provide reports to us. So if, say, someone doesn't use it for 3 months, you have easy reporting you'd be able to give to us
Yep.
so that we could stop that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have is a tool that we call gate usage reporting. So let's say we get 10 memberships from the city, right? And that's Joey, Tanya, whoever, right? Those 10 memberships, we can run a report, a monthly report on them, and we can understand their usage for that month. And I think that that's a key component, because if we're putting this investment into the citizens, we need to know the usage is being had.
Yeah, no, I think that's an important piece. The second, how would we validate that someone's still a resident?
So if you're not aware, we currently have a partnership with the city of Riverside where we do something very similar to this. And inside of that, we ask for basically a water bill. It has to be something that has their resident address on it. It has to be a most recent water bill. It can't be 3 months old. It can't be, even a license doesn't quantify it, because those often change. Your residency often changes for some. So we require a water bill or something of that utility bill to verify it.
Thank you. Councilmember Toll.
When I'm looking at these different tiers, I just want to make sure I'm looking at it correctly. Whatever we choose, that will apply to everybody, right? We're not picking different tiers for different income levels or anything. This is just blanket for all citizens, correct?
That is blanket for all citizens. However, if there is a citizen that maybe that point isn't working for them, we are happy to go into our financial assistance, which we fundraise for every single year. As an organization, we've contributed about $1.2 million back to the community in financial assistance. It's roughly about $200,000 to $250,000 a year. So I want to make sure that that's on the table. If these price points don't fare well with the citizen who may need more, we're happy to support them with financial assistance beyond that.
Okay, and my follow-up to that is, since it is every citizen regardless of your home type, if an apartment complex wants to offer Y memberships as part of a perk for lease signups, could they work with you to pay whatever's left over? So they would get the same rate that other citizens have, but they could pay either the 40 or the 29, whatever we landed on.
Yeah, I think that you bring something very interesting up, because prior to this, we were working with the apartment complex that's being built right next to the YMCA. I think that's a 50-unit complex or so.
Yeah.
Sorry. So that being said, we did work in that those units would have a membership because of proximity right there.
Yeah.
So this would be a piece of, we'd have to work through those layers
Yeah.
of details with them on it.
Everyone here knows this, but just so you know, that's my husband's project. But I was
Oh,
thinking,
sorry.
I was thinking some of our older apartments as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I would love to, I mean, if I could duplicate myself, I would, and if I could be meeting with every single apartment complex, I would. But that would be something I would love to work with them on.
That is one thing, when it was the community center, I felt like we didn't reach out to find things like that that would pull in more people. So,
Yeah, and I mean, I want to say, we have some ownership on this right now. 300 membership units for the population of North Kansas City, that's a very low percentage point of how we're impacting our community. So I'm certainly willing to go down those roads.
and I have one final statement, which is what I think my partner here was coming up with, which is, if you don't make gains, we're splitting those losses with you, correct?
No,
We absorb the losses on those.
I mean, it's 100% loss, 50%.
I mean, they're just acting.
Oh,
as
100%
basically
loss,
yeah.
50% gain. Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I mean. Sorry, yes. So to me, a plan like this looks at, we're choosing to spend the money that we're spending on our citizens. And if we do well, we get part of that money back. But if they have losses anyway, we're going to be paying the money regardless. So it would be a good program to have it go through our citizens.
Thank you. Councilmember Safer.
Can you describe the financial assistance? Because there are a lot of families that, with maybe many children, in fact, that might have a hard time
Yeah.
paying, even the tier 1, let alone tier 2
Yeah.
and 3. What is that process?
yeah. So I can speak with empathy on that. I was a single parent child, and financial assistance was something that we needed to have a lot of usage of. So you're speaking from a leader that has that level of empathy and wanting to work with their community on that level. We have anywhere from a L1 to L5, level 1 to level 5, but there's also extraordinary circumstances, that job loss, a loss of a family member. We put all of that into context and consideration when we're looking at these approvals. Today, I had a single parent come in, and his child was with him, and he needed financial assistance. We talked through the plan with him, and we were able to come to he had to have proof of income. That is something that we asked for. We have to have that proof of income. And then maybe some other, if they have governmental support or things of that nature, that type of documentation is part of the plan that we have to look at. And then we go through the process, and we are happy to provide those resources to those that are in need. There's not a denial. Again, we want to make sure that we provide access for everyone. So we take many points of consideration in the approval process of financial assistance.
Councilmember Roberts.
I know this is just like a general outline, the membership units on these, would that be something we'd be actually limited to in whatever deal we come up with, or can we keep it no cap?
Yeah, this was just to build a baseline, so that it could be less than, it could be more. It's certainly just to give us a general understanding of what the impact and the investment would look like.
Councilmember Smith.
Okay, as I'm thinking through this a little more, it seems that as we increase, so like right now it's mocked up at 250, but you tell us we have about 300. So as the memberships increase, which would be a good thing, it gets more expensive for the city. And I still kind of get stuck on what the contributions would be in this weird ownership structure, in this strange kind of relationship and partnership we have as us with the owners of the building. It feels like, as others have alluded to, we would like to see a higher true contribution from the YMCA specific under each membership, so that it doesn't become a much larger expense. So if we open the floodgates and we say we pick level one, each time a new family signs up, that's another $75 that the city's pitching in. It could become kind of a runaway number. I'm not sure what that would look like.
So I just want to make sure I clarify on that.
Yep.
For each family that signs up, the city would contribute $14.50.
$14.50, okay, I'm sorry.
Not
That's
75.
75 is the membership number.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but it amounts to like 42,000 at the lowest contribution level from us, 42,000 at 250. But say that doubles, you know, if we get up to 500, which would be a great thing to see, we'd be spending 84,000, or at the next level, 100 and I can't do math on the fly, but like 130 some odd thousand. I love the idea, but at what point do we cut a top number? I don't know how we budget for something like this, because it is kind of an open-ended program. What do you see with other cities that have this kind of subsidized thing? How are they putting that into a budget?
Yeah, so I think the best comparison is our sister city right up the road, Riverside, right? So right now, we're currently serving, they have currently citizens that is around 3,000, I believe 3,000 citizens roughly, give or take, in Riverside. And they are consistently at the marker of just over 325 membership units that they're doing. They hover around that unit impact with their plan that they've put into place. And they have a contribution of about 75% on that. So the city contributes about 75% of the membership rate. So hopefully that can give you perspective on like what the gauged interest may be. I think that here in North Kansas City, we have a very consistent and coherent group that are adamant upon seeing more feasibility. So I don't know, I can't speak to how popular this may be, but I think it's something that we certainly can address as time comes along.
So Riverside is kind of doing level 3. That'd be more.
Yeah, they're right above between level 2 and 3. I mean, they contribute a significant portion.
Okay, but they didn't build the building, I guess. That's the kind of the difference there. That's where I hear the complaints from citizens is like, okay, we built this building, we put all the tax money into it, and then Riverside reaps the benefits of, you know, people who live there get a cheaper rate. It's just, it's not good optics.
No, I hear you.
And I think that's part of what's driven the frustration and probably has boiled to where we're at now, having this discussion. And I certainly appreciate the thought that's gone into it. But seeing like what they're doing or what sort of deal that they're working with, we might need a little different one just because of the nature of the.
Yeah, and it is certainly different, I can tell you that much, because their contribution level is, I mean, we're trying to come through what is feasibility here versus what was feasibility there. So I think it is fair to say it is very different.
I will add, I think starting at $40 is, and through discussions, we kind of felt was a feasible place to start. You know, just in case you do get that, you don't want to get Kim doesn't want to get a $400,000 budget surprise. You know, so that's, and I know Riverside's probably in the $300,000 region, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong.
But I think what
on
we could
budget.
also put into consideration, you know, let's say we hit certain markers, then we need to revisit what the YMCA looks at that point. Yeah, I think that we want to be good contributors and good patrons to what the city does for us. We want to do that back to the city. So I hear you. I'm absorbing this, and I think if maybe we institute some markers, we hit 250, we need to reevaluate what the YMCA is contributing, things of that nature. Maybe we need to look at that design.
We want you to turn a profit so we can get half of it back.
Well, that's exactly why I'm here. Working hard for you.
Clevenger, Councilmember. please.
Yeah, just, I mean, I think it's a great start. I mean, I think originally, this isn't something, you know, we can look at, and then if we find something, a detail isn't working, or we want a different price level, then we can look at that, or different benchmarks. Honestly, I mean, these are your projections off, you know, 250 new memberships, you know, and I'm not sure that we would get more than 300 to 400. But depends. We've got a lot of young, new people in town that may want to, but certainly we can look at it, but I'm in favor of, you know, trying to move it forward in some aspect.
I think you bring up a great point there, Zach, too, because we currently have 300 membership units, right? So what's our penetration beyond that with this plan? Taking into consideration, we're going to hold these legacy rates in place. We're not trying to replace them and chime anybody up or anything. We're going to hold those in place and work from there.
And I wrote Saper down and I forgot to call on you,
That's fine.
Councilmember Saper.
I assume all of this is okay with YMCA of Greater Kansas City,
Absolutely.
the corporate level? This
I've
is
been
all-
working very hard for the past couple of months.
Okay. I
Okay.
wanted to get that clear.
Councilmember Toll.
I was just going to ask, out of the 300, we would pull out the legacy rates, so this would not apply to them, they already received that. And then also silver sneakers, would that still be less expensive for those?
Yeah, I've got silver
members?
sneakers that are residents of North Kansas City. There's 151 of the 300 units are silver sneakers. And silver sneaker residents, through their insurance, it's free membership for them. We would not be impacting them.
So we're currently, out of our current people, talking about 150 people, or
That
200?
are non-insurance-based memberships, correct.
Or legacy?
We also have Clay County Senior.
Oh, okay.
So the Clay County Senior Services, we work with them to give our seniors that live in Clay County a better rate. We have 41 of those as membership units, and they pay $27. We're going to keep that intact as well.
Okay. So overall, out of the 300, the only ones that would qualify to have this subsidy is about half?
I would say the ones that are currently in place, we have, I would say less than 100. I'm looking just off
Okay.
of my specs right here, right now.
Okay. So it would only immediately impact 100 people, and our goal would be to add 200 more?
Because right now, we have 26 adult membership units. If we look at that on this marker here, the cost of an individual is $40. Currently, we have 26 adult membership units at $52.
Okay. And then Kim, can you tell me, would something like this apply for people that work for the city of North Kansas City as well?
The way it's written is resident only. Now, the city does have a wellness program through the YMCA, which does have different markers within it. I believe that employees have to go 14 times a month. I'm pulling that number off the top of my head. But in order to receive some portion of their reimbursement for the YMCA, there are pretty stringent attendance requirements, and that has to do with the city's wellness program. So although employees would not qualify through this one, they do have subsidized membership rates, but it's through our wellness program.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Clevenger.
And at one time, I thought North Kansas City businesses had a reduced rate for their employees, and I didn't know if that worked for the city. I guess it's through the wellness program as well, but I think at one time, I don't know if that's still going on, Tina, for North Kansas City businesses. But as far as another couple of things on this, and if we do want to move this forward, do we want to start it immediately, or do we want to try to budget for it next year and then get it started October 1st? And if so, then what kind of fund would we be using? I don't know if that's a question for staff to budget for this kind of expense.
That's what, I was just going to wrap up with whatever other questions Kim has.
So staff's recommendation, kind of one of the reasons why we're having this particular work session right now, is to get some direction on the upcoming budget. There would have to be quite a few details and an agreement to come forward. I don't think that this would be a program we'd be able to institute overnight. As for what fund, currently the community center fund is funded through gaming revenue. It's a gaming revenue transfer. Staff would actually recommend this particular program, should the city council wish to move forward with it, come out of the general fund. And the
Okay.
reason being is that is our policy. We do try to budget
Day-to-day.
ongoing expenses out of the general fund and not use gaming revenue.
Good.
So kind of some of staff level questions would be that we would love some direction on, would be, is there any kind of minimum attendance that the city council would like to institute? That, again, that would be part of our due diligence. Those are some of the things that we would, as we move forward with the YMCA and adopting more formal paperwork to bring forward for the city council's review and adoption. I hate to say, there are some nuances that we would love some direction on through this work session, as well as what the budgeted amount you guys would like to see in the proposed version of the city council budget. There are a couple of different ways that we can go about it. As Tina said, we all know that we don't really know what the appetite might be for a program like this. And there was some talk about, well, what kind of checks and balances we could put in place. One of those checks and balances could be a finite amount of revenue that we put into the budget, and as we are getting closer, we could have that as a budget amendment. meaning I'm just going to throw some round numbers out there. We could put into the budget $50,000. Staff could track that because it would be billed monthly, as I understand it, that we would receive a monthly invoice from the YMCA. We could provide updates, and we could say, hey, we're starting to come up on that limit, and it would be a formal budget amendment through the city council to increase that.
So on these memberships, we would be prepaying these or post-paying them?
Post-paying, we would see what signups happen, and then we would invoice at the end of each month.
Okay, perfect. What typically do corporations require now in terms of frequency for people to attend to get like a reimbursement? Is there general, I'm sure they're all over the place.
They're
but-
all over the place. I think that a good best practice in healthy living is at least 2, if not 3 visits a week in healthy living. But I love to try and get 4 or 5 workouts myself.
All right, we
should
have any
make
comments
them
on
go
frequency?
7
there?
days a week, or they get, okay.
Now, Councilmember Smith,
I
go
don't,
ahead.
I
Go
don't,
ahead.
I don't know why I didn't get to this earlier. So on a membership, a $59.50 and then a $92, what is the profit on that? Like, what does that boil down to on the bottom line?
You're asking for something that is associated to direct and variable costs.
Okay.
And when we look at that at the end of the year, if we're looking at 3,800, or pre-pandemic, 3,800 units that netted at the end of the year $100,000, there's your profit margin. It takes a lot to really understand that
Yeah.
we run a pool, and that pool costs a lot of money.
Right.
We have group exercise classes that are free. That is not an additional cost to a membership. Nearly 100 or 80 group exercise classes a week. You have childcare. If you have a kiddo, bring them in for 2 hours at a time. That's something that's baked into it. So there's a lot of variable costs
Sure.
dependent upon usage type.
And using that 100,000 versus the 3,800, a lot of those are the lower price memberships. So like looking at the split we've got here, 151 with the silver sneaker rate. So I'm just curious, there's got to be something that the YMCA calculates at a higher level that says a full price membership generally on the bottom line runs this number as a profit. The reason I ask is because we could use that number to eke out what we could just put right back in. So if the profit is X and we're splitting it 50-50, we could just take 50% of that and dump it back into
Yeah.
this program, easy peasy.
I think I like your rationale with it, but again, we're in a partnership agreement,
Right.
so the variable costs are a little bit different in that regard. If we were in a traditional YMCA makeup, we could probably come out with a better understanding of direct costs associated to a membership. Again, I think that the packaging of how many things that are part of a YMCA membership really, I guess, can say drive that
Yeah.
number down.
I mean, whether somebody uses the group classes or the pool, those are fixed costs. Like, those are what they are, whether somebody's using the class or not, right? Like, that's going to be something that YMCA is paying for.
Correct.
Somebody help.
Can someone help Danny get in through the, I don't think the button's over here. And the other door's blocked, a handicap door. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I would just, for me to jump into something like this, I just need a little more information with the finances. But I love the direction we're headed.
So what I hear you saying is you'd like to have a best understanding of direct costs that are associated to an individual membership.
Yeah, if it was broken down to like, we know what the fixed costs are, and this is what each individual membership brings in on a full price rate, which is what would be impacted by this program, what profit is coming off of that, so that we could use that as we're gonna get roughly 50% of that into the city, then we could turn around and put that back in for the program, rather than just having it show up in a fund.
Perfect. Councilmember Roberts.
Yeah, I think we're getting on the right track here. The one thing I think what we need to really push with this program is be more diligent, both I think on this with the city, our newsletter that goes out all the time, and probably with the YMCA's advertising when this program launches, that we could really drive people, especially with benefits like daycare and these classes, because they are unique benefits to the YMCA, and a lot of people don't know they exist, or a lot of places charge extra for those things. And I know that it is, for a lot of people, they do understand that those are all baked in, but you just said your numbers are very low here, so I would say that people just don't know probably.
I can't agree with you more.
You know, we have a free resource that goes every door, every address here that can help with that. So I think whenever we get this, we need to do our due diligence there and share in the marketing resources, and maybe hit it over the course of like a 3-month period with whatever prices we hit. And then we'll really, I think at the end of that 90 days, really see what kind of impact we've made and can evaluate based on those price points and the signups. And let's, you know, it sounds good to start in, you know, like your drives are December and January. If we can steer clear of those times and sign up people outside of the you know, the trendy times to get fit and really get people going in a time like October or September, where it's not, you know, plaster everywhere to get fit for the new year, so we can start those good, healthy habits.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, when we do have this opportunity, I'd love to have North Kansas City special days at the Y, you know, where we have after hours for the North Kansas City citizens, and we can work that in, and, you know, it's designed to be for the North Kansas City citizens in that regard.
So, yeah, so do you feel like frequency and controls is something that you can kind of maybe look at and come back to, maybe in the agreement process, or do you want more direction now?
I would love at least a little bit of dialogue about that, and only reason being is that way when we bring it forward again, we're not kind of starting from scratch. I guess my question is that something you want at all? Any kind of controls on, hey, as part of this program, we expect residents to utilize the facility 5 check-ins a month, whatever that number
Yeah.
is?
So, yeah, I definitely think with the capability, I mean, you said the capability's there, I mean, you're tracking it for a lot of people. I would definitely support doing that, Councilmember Clevenger.
Yeah, definitely want the tracking. Definitely, I mean, we want people to use this. And if someone moves out of town, you know, we need to be able to see that as far as,
Yeah.
so we're not paying for their membership when they moved out of town. You know, I was thinking maybe minimum once a week. Should be going a lot more than that, but maybe once a week it'd be 4 times a month, 4 or 5 times a month. I think that's, you know, something that I would be in favor of, although if you get someone who maybe has a death in the family that doesn't go for a month, you know, do they have a way to kind of rectify that, or good cause? But I don't know how my other council members feel about, but I think we should at least put some kind of requirements on it.
I'm just going to keep my arm up so I can make sure I call Councilmember Saber while I ask this question. But, you know, I think one thing would be easy to track is like a no-show. So especially for post-paying, we get to the end of the month and you said this person hasn't been here at all in the last month. Would that be something then we could say, well, we don't want to pay for that last month if that person never came?
Yeah, so I think we can definitely work that out, because it's going to be on our responsibility, making sure that we're auditing these individuals. For example, again, with Riverside, we recently had somebody turn in, gosh, I forgot what, but it didn't validate the utility of the location. So us going through that auditing process, that's not going to fall to the city for that. Let's say that they're not actually a resident. The YMCA then absorbs that responsibility, that fee. We have to, I don't want to say track that person down, but we have to track that person down to then receive the proper expense.
And I think with a program like this, say someone doesn't show up for a month or two, they'd be able to roll back in at the same level anyways. So
Yeah.
I would think, I mean, if we're doing,
Yeah.
subsidizing this
So
program like this.
Yeah, we can get very thorough with that audit process. If we're seeing
Yeah.
gate usage is nil,
Yeah.
we're going to let you all know,
Yeah.
and in this membership contract, you're required to be here 10 times. I saw
Yeah.
10
I
fingers.
mean, for
from
example, I'm
people.
just thinking, you know, if you didn't go for 2 months and there's some reason you didn't go for 2 months, we've dropped you off the roll, say we're not paying for this anymore.
Yeah.
Month 3, you'd be able to just re-roll back
It's
into
an
this and
investment.
pick
I
it back.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Councilmember Saper, see, I got you there.
Thank you. There are a number of unknowns. How often people would use this? How many will drop out after a month of using it and not show up again? And for these reasons, I'm starting to look toward the idea of funding it for 6 months without any controls, essentially, and then with your information and audits, seeing what's actually happened out there. Are people dropping out after a month or 2 months and not showing up? Are people signing up and never using it? We don't know any of this yet. So I'm
Can we
feeling the
broker
idea in
that,
terms
yeah.
of budgeting, Kim, would that be possible?
Can we broker that down to like 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, narrow the window down a little. I mean, because if you're getting live data every month, then it shouldn't be something we have to wait too long on, I don't think. But-
Okay, 3.
There, Councilmember Toll.
I think 3 months sounds reasonable, and I like the idea of having a warning before they're dropped. So maybe after a 3-month cycle, you get a mailer that says, hey, guess what, you haven't been here, whatever the minimum is. This is how much it would pay, you would have to pay on your own. You have to, and then restating the rules, so they get a second choice.
Yeah.
I know it's an investment in health, but I would keep it a smaller required number at first, because we're looking for people to start healthy habits that don't already have healthy habits.
Yeah.
And if you put that number too high, we're not going to retain those people given the rules.
All right, Councilmember Roberts.
So I think part of this is how we advertise, like I said. So if it's a healthy living plan, I think we can do 8. I think that's a good achievement, right? That's 2 times a week. We're really asking somebody. I'd like to see more, but I think 8 is fine. I don't know if we need to do a 3 or 6 month reevaluation, because the whole thing is a healthy living plan. You're getting this because you want these benefits at this special price, and part of it is you got to work for that price. If you don't want to be part of it, then you can get out. So I guess the big thing would be, like, this is a contractual thing, so they're signing a 12-month agreement. So the difficulty may fall if they don't hit those marks. Will they be able to have an exit, or will they go up to the higher tier, and then that might be a burden on them? Or will they be able to, is there an exit plan we could have for them?
So-
And then the last thing would be, obviously, sending a mailer, I don't know, that's a fixed cost, but sending an email or a text, I assume, is what you probably would do, and would be a more direct and reasonable way to respond to somebody.
Yeah. We can certainly, email works really well for us. It gives us tracking purposes. So for us, we would probably send an email to give them that heads up,
Yeah.
you need to come in like 6 more times or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
The other part of it, to what you were sharing, oh goodness, what was the other?
With the, so if they don't meet those benchmarks, and let's say we give them 1 warning month, and then they get back on track, or they just don't come again,
gotcha.
what happens to their contract? Does
Yeah.
it go to full price?
So
And can they get out of it?
What's really neat about this is not a contract.
Okay.
What we are working with a partnership with the individual, the city, and the YMCA. So this is essentially a month-to-month kind of thing. What's going to happen is if they cancel because they're going to get the first month free, and let's say they come in for the second month and they pay their $40 rate, but they don't hit that marker, the 8 or something like that, that membership can be canceled. They can come back on within that year. They just won't get that first month free again. Okay, so there's not an agreement that they have to be with us for 12 months out of the year. This is unique. This is different than how we typically build out contracts, if you want to call it. We like to call it agreements.
I think that's all good. Part of me, giving people a little skin in the game is always a little bit more valuable, I think. The free month always sounds really sexy up front, but I almost think it's something we should offer for people who hit 90 days and hit those achievements, and then you get a free month, because it's a perk, right? I know you're laughing, but it is.
These tactics, we go round and round with these tactics.
I'm sure you've tried all of them, right?
Yeah.
Does that one not work quite as well? Is the free month the hook?
I would-
reinventing the
I
fitness
mean,
industry right
if we
here.
want to go down this rabbit hole, I mean, there's pay the day, pay $1 for the first day of the month, and then on the last day of the month, you pay $30. We've gone through all these tactics. Right now, the first month free is a very, very attractive piece.
Sure.
But the skin in the game, I hear you on that. It is something that has posed some challenges. I think it can be weighed either way.
I think what you said about creating like maybe like a yearly event, or a couple every 6 months or something, might be the way to do that.
Keeping them
That
engaged.
keeps people engaged. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We might have to set up another work session to just talk about this. Kim, I think we got a general direction of start to work together with the YMCA to put together some sort of deal,
Correct.
specific on controls can kind of come.
I'm hearing consensus that this is something you guys would like us to pursue, maybe work
Yes.
out some of our finer details.
Yes.
Am I hearing consensus that you would like to see this in the proposed budget for beginning of October 1st?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so start the program sometime next year, have it on the next fiscal budget beginning October 1st, correct?
Did you want us to begin this program on October 1st?
Yes.
Yes.
If we can get it done by then, yeah.
Yes.
And Kim, so with the budgeting, the numbers here are 250. There are, like, by the numbers that Tina provided to us, less than 100 people that would be impacted. So instead of looking at 42,000, we'd be looking at substantially less than that up front, and then it would maybe we build it up at some kind of growth factor.
So I got one final question on that. Did we ever really decide on a level? Did you want to get it down to that legacy adult and make
I
that the
mean,
base, or do we want to start this 40
That would be
here?
level 1.5.
I know, I was going to say it's one in change there. I'm
Yeah,
not sure what-
1.5. I mean, if there's a way to target those legacy rates so that it's clean, I'd like that. But if we want to, I mean, maybe council could opine on level 1 or 2. Nope.
Nobody wants to.
I
opine
think
on
the
that.
legacy rates, but maybe bring two options, I don't know, that are like a little bit more unique to our situation. The legacy rate, I think, being one of those, and then maybe one that you think is a good second choice for us in this particular unique situation.
Level 1 is your recommendation at this point.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
Maybe a
and
legacy and a level one.
The rationale behind level 1 came from average costs of current membership units within North Kansas City. So it gave us kind of that median of where we found a threshold for an individual or for a family, and it just went from there.
Gotcha.
good. All right, Kim, anything else? Last chance. Tina, thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you so
We
much,
are adjourned.
everyone.
Thank you.
Andrew?
There.
10 minutes. That was a pretty